Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Chesterton's Jest, where we shine an unflinching light on the joys, contradictions, and crises within today's Catholic Church and culture. If you're here for faith, wit, and a little righteous fire, you're in the right place. Smash that like button, share this video with your fellow troublemakers, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Now then, shall we begin? Our topic, up for discussion today: Globalization of Gullibility, when the whole world falls for the same lie. Chapter 1. A world that thinks in unison. There was a time when the world was divided by borders, languages, creeds, and competing visions of reality. Today, it is increasingly united, not by truth, but by the astonishing phenomenon of believing the same nonsense at the same time. The modern age prides itself on diversity while producing an unprecedented uniformity of thought. Entire continents now repeat identical slogans, fear identical enemies, and adopt identical solutions, often without noticing that none of them were seriously debated. This is the great irony of globalism. It promised pluralism and delivered conformity. The lie is not merely that the world can be governed as one body, but that it ought to think as one mind. When everyone agrees instantly, it is rarely because truth has finally triumphed. It is because skepticism has been suspended. Chapter 2. The speed of the lie. In earlier ages, lies travelled slowly. They required armies, pamphlets, or preachers. Today, a lie travels at the speed of an algorithm. It appears everywhere at once, translated instantly, polished professionally, and repeated endlessly until familiarity masquerades as fact. What is global is assumed to be correct. What is local is dismissed as backward. This speed creates a peculiar paralysis. When a narrative is universal, dissent feels not merely wrong, but insane. The individual no longer asks whether something is true, only whether it is already accepted. Thus, the most effective lie is not the outrageous one, but the boring one. The lie repeated so often that it becomes background noise. Chapter 3. Experts without wisdom. The modern world worships expertise while quietly discarding wisdom. An expert, after all, only needs credentials. A wise man needs judgment. Global politics increasingly operates on the assumption that if enough specialists agree, reality must comply. Yet history is filled with credentialed catastrophes, confidently engineered by men who mistook data for truth and consensus for certainty. What is most striking is not that experts are sometimes wrong, but that they are rarely punished for being wrong, so long as they were wrong together. Global failures are reframed as learning experiences, while local skepticism is branded as dangerous. The crowd forgives itself far more easily than it forgives the dissenter. Chapter 4. Fear as a unifying language. Nothing globalizes faster than fear. Fear requires no translation, no nuance, and no patience. It bypasses reason and goes straight to obedience. A frightened population does not ask whether a policy is just, only whether it promises safety. And safety, once elevated above truth, becomes a bottomless demand. Global politics has learned this lesson well. Fear is standardized, packaged, and distributed across borders. Different nations are told different stories, but they are taught to feel the same anxiety. Once fear is universal, control becomes effortless. Men will surrender freedoms voluntarily if they believe everyone else already has. Chapter 5. The moral monoculture. The world now speaks of shared values, but what it often means is enforced values. Moral monoculture replaces moral reasoning. Certain positions are declared settled, not because they were proven, but because debate became inconvenient. Questioning is treated as sabotage, and skepticism as extremism. This is how gullibility becomes virtuous. To doubt is framed as cruelty. To comply is framed as compassion. The global conscience is curated carefully, allowing outrage only in approved directions. The result is a world that prides itself on empathy, while practicing remarkable intellectual laziness. Chapter 6. The Illusion of Inevitable Progress. One of the most powerful global lies is that history only moves in one direction, and that direction happens to agree with the latest policy proposal. Progress is no longer measured by virtue, stability, or truth, but by novelty and scale. If something is new and global, it must be better. If it is old and local, it must be suspect. This illusion robs nations of memory. It teaches them to apologize for their past rather than learn from it, and to distrust inherited wisdom as if it were a moral defect. A world that believes progress is automatic will stop guarding against collapse. Chapter 7. When no one is accountable. Global decision-making has a peculiar feature. Responsibility dissolves as authority expands. When everyone decides, no one is accountable. Policies that affect millions are crafted by institutions no voter can meaningfully correct and no citizen can confront. Failure becomes abstract. Blame becomes theoretical. This is why global mistakes repeat themselves. A local leader who fails can be removed. A global system that fails merely issues a revised report. Gullibility thrives where consequences are distant and diffuse. Chapter 8. The Courage to Think Locally. The antidote to global gullibility is not isolation, but discernment. It is the courage to think slowly in a fast world, to ask unfashionable questions, and to resist the hypnotic comfort of universal agreement. Truth has never required a majority, and wisdom has never been improved by haste. A world that falls for the same lie is not united. It is merely synchronized. Genuine unity requires truth, and truth requires the freedom to dissent. Until the world relearns how to disagree without panic, it will continue mistaking scale for sanity and consensus for correctness. And so the most radical act in global politics today is not rebellion, but thought. Not outrage, but judgment. Not shouting with the crowd, but standing still long enough to notice that everyone else may be marching in the wrong direction. Chapter 9. The Lie That Flatters Everyone. The most dangerous global lie is not the one that terrifies, but the one that flatters. It tells every nation that it is compassionate, every institution that it is necessary, and every individual that obedience is intelligence. It reassures people that they are not surrendering judgment, but trusting the process, not avoiding thought, but following the science, not submitting to power, but standing on the right side of history. This lie is irresistible because it absolves responsibility. If everyone believes it, then no one feels foolish for believing it. If the whole world repeats the same sentence, then doubt feels like arrogance, and silence feels like wisdom. Thus, gullibility is transformed into virtue, and skepticism into vice. A world united by such a lie does not need tyrants. It polices itself. Men will correct one another before power ever has to intervene. And that is the final triumph of global gullibility, when control no longer requires force, because the lie has already been accepted as common sense. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed today's video and share our passion for defending the true faith with a touch of humor, smash that like button. Share this video with your fellow troublemakers and subscribe so you never miss an episode. As Chesterton once said, "A madman is not someone who has lost his reason. A madman is someone who has lost everything except his reason." So, let's keep our reason and our faith intact together. Thanks for listening. God bless you, and may the good Lord be praised.